សូមអញ្ជើញអង្គុយ
Please be seated.
សូមអញ្ជើញលោកប្រញ្ញា
The chamber once again hands the floor to the co-prosecutor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Madam Witness, in this courtroom on the 27th of May, 2013, we heard the following statement from Q Sampan. This is at 1458 in E1 197.1. Q Sampan said, I quote, "On the issue of forced marriage, I did not know anything at all because at the offices around Phnom Penh, no such event happened." End of quote. You've described for us already your group marriage. I want to ask you some questions now about whether there were other marriages you were aware of at the Ministry of Commerce. First, can you tell us when you worked at Tool Tumpong from 1977 to 78, how many people in total worked at the Tool Tumpong warehouses?
At the Totompung office, there were male mobile unit, and there was also a female mobile unit, and the number for each unit is comparatively to a company. And the male mobile unit was tasked to do the byproduct selection of K-pop seeds. And another part of the group was for carrying goods onto vehicles.
Can I clarify? Did you work at the state warehouses, or were your mobile units separate from the warehouses?
No, we did not work at the state warehouse. We were part of the domestic commerce. The state warehouse group was at kilometer 6 location.
And so, do I understand correctly that there were, as far as you knew, there were no warehouses used to store products at Tool Tumpong?
There was a warehouse to store the buy products, including sesame and tiger bones and peanuts. After we cleaned those products, we stored them in the warehouse, and when the vehicle arrives, the products would be transported onto the vehicles, and the vehicles would head to Kampong Sao.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. You've talked about your own marriage that involved 21 couples. Were you aware of other marriages of people, either people who worked at Tool Tumpong or people who worked elsewhere in commerce?
The 21 couples included those from the export section. There were two, that is, one was my husband, and there were also 3 other individuals from his department. and a few of them came to get married at my place at Tultumpung. And I refer to the two individuals from the finance who came to marry women at my location at Tultumpung. And as I said, the total number of the couples was 21.
My question may not have been clear. My question was, were you aware of other marriage ceremonies, other couples who were married in addition to the 21 couples whose marriage was arranged at the time you were married?
President, civil party witness, please respond again. When you spoke, the microphone was not yet operational. Answer. I was not aware about this matter from other units.
Let me ask you about some evidence that has come from a former chief of one of the state warehouses, a man, Ru Sui, who's testified in this court before. He's given an OCIJ interview in which he describes his involvement in organizing marriages at the state warehouses. And this is, Your Honors, E3/10620. That's E3-10620, 10,620 at answer 75. And this is what he testified to. I quote, "There was a plan which required the unit, the warehouse ministry, to have 100 couples married per month. The marriage age was over 20 years old." And at answers 77 to 78 of his statement, quote, "The marriages began in 1976, but strict measures were implemented from 1977. However, I am not sure of the dates. Question, what do you mean by strict measures? Answer, I mean that 100 couples per month had to get married." End of quote. This comes from someone who was a chief of a state warehouse. My question to you, did you ever hear about a plan by which 100 couples had to be married per month? And did you know this person, Sui, from the state warehouses?
No, I was not aware of that. As I stated, the state warehouse was far from where I worked. It was located at kilometer number 6.
I asked you before whether Khieu Samphan ever came to visit Tultumpong. Were you aware of any study sessions or training sessions that were led by Khieu Samphan for workers from the state warehouse or the Ministry of Commerce?
Counsel for Khieu Samphan, you had the floor. Thank you, Mr. President. I object to this question as this witness has testified that she does not know Khieu Samphan. So any activities related to Khieu Samphan that could not be said by this witness besides her presumption.
Mr. President, I think that was the point of my question, to find out whether she's heard or knows anything on another subject, different subject to what I asked her before, which is, did she hear of Khieu Samphan conducting study sessions or training meetings?
President, the objection is overruled. And co-prosecutor, you may resume your questioning.
Did you ever hear, Madam Witness, of Q Sampan conducting study sessions or training meetings for commerce workers?
No, I did not know about that.
I want to ask you about some testimony that we heard yesterday from and this morning also from a female civil party in this case, who worked for the Ministry of Commerce and was also forced to marry. Yesterday at 13:47 to 13:50, she testified about a study session conducted by Q Sampan at the Unalom Pagoda, at which he told a group of male and female youths the following, I quote, and this is referring to Q Sampan. He said that all female cadres need to work for the state, and those with the age above 19 from all ministries need to be arranged to get married. We should not keep them unmarried. He said that they should get married so they would produce children, and when they produce children, we will have more force to defend our territory. End of quote. Madam Witness, did you ever hear of a policy like this from any party leaders, Tarit, Q Sampan, anyone else? Does this refresh your recollection?
No, I was not aware of the matter that you has just raised.
And before I move on to my next subject, I need to ask you also about another subject that the civil party testified to yesterday, as this involves Tul Tumpong. Yesterday at about 14:04 in the afternoon, she testified that on the night she was married, she and the other couples were sent to stay in a house at the Tul Tumpong market, and she described what took place that night as follows, quote, "When I went to rest at Tul Tumpong market, one person told me that I should be careful because we were under monitor. The three couples stayed in 3 separate rooms in one house, and at nighttime I tried to listen and I could hear the footsteps. And they actually went up the ladder to try to listen to us. They were the militia people." End of quote. Madam Witness, did you ever hear while you were at Tul Tumpong, did you hear of couples being monitored after they were married by militia?
No, I did not hear anything about that because after I got married, I moved to the finance section.
The other 20 couples that were married with you, did any of them come and stay where you were located, or did they remain in Tul Tumpong?
The 21 couples who got married on the day that I got married, 4 of them went to live at the finance ministry, while the rest of the couples remain living to the eastern part of the Tutumpung Pagoda, that is, they remained with the mobile unit stationed there.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to turn now to a different subject, something you talk about in your DC Cam interview. Can you tell the court whether you attended any political education meetings during the regime at which Noon Chea provided instruction, and if so, can you describe that meeting for the court?
During the period that I lived in the regime, we were called for a meeting at Boraikela, and Ta Noon Chea was the instructor on the topic of striving to work for the party, and that we should respect the parties and the party's disciplines, that we should work hard to produce good products, to achieve always 3 tons of rice yield per hectare.
Okay, one first question just to clarify. Earlier this afternoon you talked about a week-long session that you called a session denouncing traitors that took place immediately after you were returned to Phnom Penh from the tempering site. Was the meeting at which Noon Chea spoke part of that week-long session, or was this a different occasion?
When we called to a meeting, and that meeting took place after I got married in 1978.
And I want to be clear, the meeting at Bore Kila where Noon Chea spoke was, it was not until after you were married, is that correct?
It happened after I got married.
And did Noon Chea at this meeting talk about arrests of traitors, and if so, what did he say?
It happened many years ago, and I cannot recall much. What I recall is that we were told to respect the disciplines of Angka, to increase the production, to respect the party, and to respect the leadership.
Let me read to you, Madam Witness, an excerpt of what you said to DC Cam about this meeting. This is in your interview E3/9318, Khmer ERN 00058 through 270, English 00679 French 00611 552. I quote your statement here, Madam Witness. Question: did you ever attend the party's anniversary? Answer: yes, I did. I attended the session when some perceived traitors from the north were arrested. They said they would start arresting people to wipe out all traitors. We were asked to go to Borai Kila, where a meeting was held. We were made to listen in the meeting, in which the work on reconstruction of the country and increasing production from 1 ton a hectare to 3 tons were lectured. They educated us to strive to work hard, and that all traitors were arrested and we should not be worried anymore. Question: who were in attendance? Who were giving speech? Answer: Noon Chea. A question: what year was that? Answer: in 1977. A question: did you remember who the North people were who were perceived as traitors? Answer: the contemptible Khoituns group and the contemptible Nem, and other names I cannot recall. End of quote. Does that refresh your memory, Madam Witness? Do you remember Noon Chea talking about arrests of traitors from Khoituns group?
I cannot recall that. It happened a long time ago.
Now, you told DC Cam that this meeting was in 1977. Are you sure it was in 1978? Or is it possible that your memory on this isn't good and that it was in 1977 when this meeting took place?
During the meeting where the announcement was made about the traitorous people from the north, and that happened in 77, and I got married in 78, and then a fortnight after I attended another meeting or study session, and later on the UN troops arrived.
So if I understand, there was the meetings where there was announcement about the North Zone traitors, and that took place in 1977. Was this the same meeting you talked about, described as a week-long session denouncing the traitors? And if so, where did this meeting that talked about the week-long, or talked about the North Zone traitors, where did this take place?
When I attended the study session with him in Borai Kila in 1972, so as the witness, there was no announcement about the traitor Khoitun. However, when I attended the study session Nipsa Cha, they announced about the traitors Khoitun and Nyang and a few others who had all been arrested.
And who conducted the study session at Sar Cha that talked about Khoitun and others?
It was Ta Hong who opened the session.
And just so we're clear, you're referring to Ta Hong, the person who was the deputy of the Commerce Minister Taret, is that right?
Yes, he's from Ministry of Commerce. Before he went to Tutumpu, he was in charge of the location at the Psa Cha.
And you described this before as a week-long session. Was Ta Hong the only one who gave speeches during this week, or did others also? Did any other party leaders also talk?
It was Ta Hong who provided instructions. There was no one else.
And how many people attended this meeting where Ta Hong talked about, among other things, the traitors from the North Zone?
There were many participants. There were participants from Commerce, from Sa Thmai, and from Sa Cha. There was a mobile unit at Sa Cha as well, but I was not a part of it. And during that meeting, it was a full crowd as there were many participants.
And so, just to be sure I understand correctly, there was one meeting that was held, a week-long meeting held in 1977 after you returned from the tempering site, presided over by Ta Hong, and then there was a different meeting in 1978 at Borikila, led by Noon Chea. Is that correct?
At that one study session, it was led by Noon Chea.
And how long was the study session that was led by Noon Chea in Borikila?
It was a one-day study session.
And who were the people who attended this study session? How many people, and who were they?
For the study session that lasted for one day, again it was a full crowd as the hall was fully occupied. There were many people, and I only knew that the people from the import and export sections also participated in the session.
Thank you, Madam Witness. One point I want to ask you about before I move on. The same supervisor from one of the state warehouses, Ruo Sui, has testified regarding study sessions he attended at Borikila that were presided over by Noon Chea. And in his OCIJ statement, this is E3/469, Khmer 00172052, English 00205113, French 00524-390-91. He stated as follows, quote, in the 1977 study session, Noon Chea played the tape recording of the confession of Khoi Tun, end of quote. Does that ring a bell with you at all, Madam Witness? Were you at either of the meetings you went to, did anyone play a recording of Khoi Tun's confession? Or did you ever hear from other people at the Commerce who heard the playing of that recording?
No, I did not know about the playing of Khoi Tun's confession.
I want to ask you a few questions now about arrests or disappearances of your fellow workers during the regime, particularly in 1977 and 1978. Can you tell us, either during the time you were at the tempering site near Pochetong or while you were working for Commerce in Phnom Penh, did you ever see people being taken away to be arrested? And if so, can you describe for the court what you witnessed?
When those traitors had been arrested, And a day or two after, I attended a study session at Satmai, where my group stayed. At night time, a vehicle arrived, and people with weapons got out of the vehicle. They made the arrest and put people back onto the vehicle, and the vehicle left. We were afraid, and we did not know those people who had been arrested since too.
And can you tell us where was it that you saw these people being arrested and put onto the truck?
It happened in front of the office at Satmai. As I said, the vehicle stopped, people jumped out of the vehicle, went out the house and made the arrest. We saw it, we were scared, and we remained staying in the house, and we did not know what happens to those who were or had been arrested.
And is this something that happened during the same week when you were having the study sessions that you described as denouncing traitors led by Tahong? Were these arrests during that week, or was this at a different time?
That event occurred a few days after the study session. Maybe because the treacherous people from the north had not all been arrested yet. So the vehicle came in, arrests were made, and people who were arrested were put on the vehicle and left. And we remained staying in the house since we were afraid.
How many people were arrested and put on this truck?
Only next morning we learned that two cadres, P and Duan, disappeared, and Duan was in charge of the distribution list for the state market, and P was above the commerce at the Satmai.
Who is it that informed you that these were the two people who had been arrested?
It was his wife. Next morning, his wife says that her husband had been arrested during the night time. We heard it, but did not ask her for details, since we were also afraid. Did not want to ask for any details.
Okay, let me. I want to get some clarification on something you said in your DC CAM interview, E3 9318. Your Honors, this is at Khmer 000-58271, English 00679-672, French 00611-554. And in this part of your interview, you were describing the period you were at the tempering site near Pochitong. I quote, this is what you said, quote, "I was tempered by building the dikes and canals. We worked to the north of the road in the paddy fields near the railroad. I would see people being taken away by trucks almost every day." End of quote. Does that refresh your memory, Madam Witness? Did you, during the time, this was not before you were returned to Phnom Penh, did you see people being arrested and put into trucks at the tempering site near Pochitong?
that was the location I was tampered, and members of my unit were arrested in the evening, and enclosed vehicle arrived. They had a list of names. They called out the names, and they rushed to call those who could not even pack their belongings. And that vehicle left. It was not a truck. It was an enclosed vehicle, but not a truck, and then it headed towards the west and disappeared. And then we were afraid. We thought that our turn would be next.
And you said in your DC Cam interview that this happened almost every day. Is that correct, Madam Witness?
As I have stated earlier, a few days, 4 or 5 days later, the vehicle arrived again at around 6 or 7 p.m. Then people were put onto the truck, and the vehicle left. And 4 or 5 days later, the vehicle returned. But at that time, although my name was called, the vehicle was full, and then I was told to wait for next turn. And when I asked where they were sent to, they said that they were sent to an office in Kampong Kontut so that they would reunite with their parents.
Thank you, Madam Witness. One more short subject to cover with you. Then I want to go back just for one moment to the a meeting in Borai Kila chaired by Noon Chea. In your DC Cam interview, E3 9318, English 006796667, Khmer 000582266, French 006115549 through 550. You're discussing the meeting at Borai Kila chaired by Noon Chea, and at one point in your description of that meeting you said, I quote, "We were given handouts," end of quote. Do you remember what the handouts were that were distributed at the meeting that was chaired by Noon Chea?
I did not receive the booklet, said the witness. Perhaps the booklets may have been given to the participants, but I myself did not receive a copy of it.
The last subject I wanted to ask you about today is something you talked about in your interview. Did you yourself have any relatives who were arrested and killed during the Khmer Rouge regime?
I had biological sibling, relative, and aunt who were killed in 1977. My elder sibling was accused of being a soldier for 1 month. Family members of my aunts were taken away. They were accused of being a feudalist. All family members were killed. Back then, I was in Phnom Penh. I did not know that they were all taken away and killed. It was only after I returned home did I know that they were all killed.
Your brother, when you say that he was accused of being a soldier, had he been a soldier during the Lon Nol regime?
He was a soldier in Lunal's time. In fact, he was forced to be a soldier. He did not join the army voluntarily. He did not receive a salary after 1 month of service. Then he went to consult with my father about that, and after the discussion, he escaped.
And was it just your brother who was killed, or what happened to your brother's wife and son?
All of them had been arrested. The fetus said the witness was also taken away. His wife was pregnant. She was taken away. She found it difficult to walk at the time, so they dragged her onto the vehicle. 4 families were arrested and sent away, and 3 or 4 families of my aunts were also taken away after their evacuation from Phnom Penh.
You indicate in your interview that your brother, his pregnant wife, and their son were all taken away and killed. How old was their son? How old was their child that was taken away?
I do not really know their age because I already left my village.
And you've already mentioned that this is something you learned when you returned to your home village after the regime. Just so we're clear, who is it that told you what had happened to your brother and his family?
My mother. Upon my arrival at home, my mother told about what had happened to my elder brother.
Thank you very much for your time, Madam Witness. We have no further questions, Mr. President.
President, thank you very much, Mr. Co-Prosecutor. And now the floor is given to lead co-lawyer for civil parties. You may now proceed.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Madam Witness. My name is Marie Giro, and I represent the consolidated group of victims who joined this trial as civil parties. I have a few short follow-up questions regarding your marriage in 1978. You explained the ceremony and the vow you took on that day. You have explained that Tarit presided over that ceremony. Did anyone tell you on that day that you had to consummate your marriage?
No one told me about that. However, I was transferred from Tul Tumpung to the place where my husband was living. He was living in a small room. No one, in fact, told me about what to do after marriage.
Pouvez-vous indiquer à la Cour si vous...
Can you tell the chamber whether you and your husband consummated the marriage after the ceremony when you joined him in the little room in which he was living in the ministry? Did you live as husband and wife?
After the marriage, we did not consummate the marriage right away. It was only after half a month or 1 month did we consummate the marriage. At first, we did not have any feeling toward one another, and we did not love one another.
Je vous remercie de ces précisions.
Thank you for this clarification. When you decided to consummate the marriage 15 days or a month later, was it a joint decision taken by you and your husband?
He started to mention about his background. At the birth village, he said he was separated from his family members, and his mother had no foods to eat. I started to feel a pity on him, so we started to live as husband and wife.
Avez-vous eu des enfants avec votre mari?
Did you have any children with your husband during the democratic Kampuchea regime? Did you become pregnant during the democratic Kampuchea regime?
No, I was not pregnant. When I was living in the refugee camp, that I was pregnant.
Et avez-vous, à aucun moment, lorsque...
And did you at any point in time while you were still living with your husband in 1978 at the Ministry of Husband hear any remarks or questions? Because precisely you were not together. Were there any recommendations or instructions during sessions regarding women who got married and who didn't become pregnant?
No such discussion, no education about that particular matter. Some couples, after their marriage, love each other, and some women got pregnant right away, but some other were pregnant later on.
Pouvez-vous indiquer à la Cour?
And this will be my last question, and I'll give the floor to my colleague who will have some follow-up questions. For how long did you live with your husband after your marriage?
For more than 3 months. I stayed with him up until November, and the Vietnamese advanced into the country in January. I met him again at the Thai-Cambodian border.
Et vous êtes resté avec votre mari?
And did you stay with your husband after the regime ended in 1979 and thereafter?
After the Khmer Rouge regime, I met him in the territory of Thailand, and we continues to live together.
Je vous remercie, Madame le témoin.
Thank you, Madam Witness. I have no further questions. I believe my colleague, Law Chunti, has a few questions for the witness, Mr. President.
No.
President, you may now proceed, lawyer for civil parties. Law Chunti. Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, this chamber. My name is Lao Chunti. I am a lawyer from Legal Aid of Cambodia. I am one of the civil party lawyers. I would like to put some follow-up questions. Before the wedding day, how long were you informed of the planned marriage? How did you learn about your marriage? Answer. Before the wedding, the 20 couples knew about the planned marriage 1 month before, and for me, I knew about the planned marriage of me the evening before the wedding ceremony taking place. Question. What did they tell you about the planned marriage? Did they tell you to respect the plan that Angka organized? Answer. I was told that Angka wanted to marry me to a man, and I said I did not want to get married. Then I was told again about the principle or plan or rule of Angka that I had to get married. So I was told that I had to get ready in the morning so that someone would come to collect me together with my backpack. Lawyer. Thank you very much, Madam Witness. You made mention about the rules of Angka. What does this mean? I was told to respect and adhere to the disciplines of Angka. The disciplines were the rule or lines of the party that we had to follow. Question. Did you have to adhere to the discipline or the line of the party? Were you afraid of the line or disciplines of the party? Answer. I had to adhere to the line, the party's line or disciplines of the party because I was afraid that I would be taken away. Question. During the marriage where 21 couples were arranged, where the marriage of the 21 couples were arranged, you stated that you stay together with your husband and other couples were living at Tul Tumpung. Did you receive any information that the other couples were getting along with one another? Answer. After the wedding, those who were living at Tul Tumpung were living happily together, and they were running away together during the time that the Vietnamese were advancing into the country. Lawyer, I would like to backtrack a little bit, Madam Witness. You made a mention that you were a small vendor at the commerce. What do you mean by that? Were there vendors during the decay, and was there trade? Answer. You asked me about the period when I was a vendor at Sa Thamay, or which period of time did you want to know? Question. I want to know about the period when you were a vendor at a later stage. Answer. When I was a vendor at Sa Thamay warehouse, I in fact was not a vendor. I was there responsible for delivering goods to workers. Pigs were raised at Chirang Chamre or Office K1, and cows perhaps were raised there as well. And on the delivery date, there were vehicles coming to my warehouse, and I had to register in the inventory how many kilograms of pork or beefs or dry fish I received. So I was there responsible for weighing the beef, pork, dried fish for other, and if there was remainder of beef, pork, fresh fish or dry fish, I had to send to Po Chen Tong to keep in a refrigerator or freezer. In fact, there was no exchange of money at the time or exchange of currency. Question. You stated that there was one time you went to teach children. What did you teach the children about? Were there textbooks, and how many children did you teach? Answer. When I was first teaching children at the district office, there was a textbook, that is Khmer literature. There was only one textbook, and as for children, they had only boards to write on. There were no books for them to write. Question. Where were the children from? Were those children from the villages, or did they belong to the cadres working at different locations? Answer. I did not know at the time. Some children were the children of the evacuees because their parents died, so they became orphan, and then they were sent to the orphan unit. Lawyer, I thank you very much. I still have two more questions to put to you. My first question is about your background. You stated that you left your birth village and stayed in different locations from 1975 to 79. Did you have time to visit your home at your village? Answer. After the fall of the regime in 1979, I visited my house once, and my elderly parents were there at home. My elder brothers and sisters were already working in the mobile units. However, we did not eat collectively at the time, I mean in 1975. Lawyer, what about the wedding ceremony? Did they come to attend your wedding ceremony? Answer. I did not go to visit my house when I left, after I had left. But there was one time that I went to visit my house. Nain became a psychotic person and was sent to live in Unalam Pagoda. And Api was the chief of that unit in Wat Unalam. The Api, in fact, had a package of clothes for that psychotic person, and one day he searched in the backpack and he found a snake, and P became a psychotic person, became a very psychotic person afterwards. He mentioned this and there, and he accused Leng of being an enemy. At the time, I was staying in the house, and Leng was asked by someone that he was a crazy person. Then Leng raised his leg and put on a dress, and he said that he was a member of Youth League. Leng then approached Lon and strangled Lon. So I intervened at the time, and I chased Lon away. Seeing that, P came toward me and wanted to beat me. From that time onward, I started to realize that he became a psychotic person, and everyone at that location accused him of being enemy because he had said that he wanted to become a senior person. So from time to time, he became even psychotic, even crazy. He took off his clothes and walked around. So everyone decided to put him in a room on the upper floor of the building. Then he was sent to a hospital, and at the place he beat and hit the staff members at the hospital. He was chained, and after staying in the hospital for a while, we received the information that we had to go and collect him back. So I had to go and collect Leng. When he saw me, he approached me and he hugged me. He was then talking to me that I did not give him food to eat. So he asked me to take him, to bring him along. After I took him to my location, P arrested him and detained him in a room on the upper level. Lawyer interrupted. So what happened next? So please describe it briefly. Answer. I was told to take him to Preja to treat him to become a stable person. I went with him to Preja on 2 occasions, and then I took him back home. And after that time, we were requested to live in a collective community, said the witness. President, it is now time for the adjournment. The chamber will resume its hearing tomorrow on the 1st September 2016 at 9 a.m. Madam Witness, the hearing of your testimony has not come to an end yet. You are therefore invited to come here again to testify tomorrow. And the staff member who supports the witness, please also come. The chamber would like to inform the party that after the conclusion of the testimony of this witness, the chamber will hear the submission of parties in relation to 2 TCE 93. Security personnel are instructed to bring Mr. Kilsonporn and Nguyen Chia back to the ECCC's detention facility and have them returned tomorrow on the 1st